It is Tuesday, November 6th, 2007. We're in Ramadi, Iraq at Joint Station Jamaica.
Correct.
We're here with Sergeant Humphrey, Lieutenant Humphrey. He'll explain that later in the interview. If you don't mind, sir, would you please just give us your full name, middle initial, last name, spell your last name for us, and then give us the unit you're with, up to division, please.
Brandon R. Humphrey, H-U-M-P-H-R-E-Y, 1st Platoon, Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division.
Okay, thank you. Sir, what we're going to do for this interview is we're going to do kind of a comprehensive background. So I'm going to ask you a series. Oh, and the interviewer's name is Douglas Alpasca. I keep leaving that out. What I want to do here is I want to kind of just go over a background of yourself. So if you could just give me the dates for I guess when you were born, kind of up till you left for the Marine Corps, and then from there, I guess just start with some of your earliest memories of your childhood, elementary school and stuff like that.
I was born October 7th, 1980 in New York. My father was active duty in the military, Marine Corps. I graduated high school in 1998, went to college for a few years on and off. I signed to join the Marine Corps in July 2004, spent a couple months in the DET program, left for boot camp on November 1st, 2004, came to 3-7 on April 19th, 2005, and deployed to Ramadi in the first week of September 05.
Okay. I understand that military service is a pretty strong tradition. I assume in your family. Could you just kind of explain to us how your family is involved in the military and what it is that they did?
My father was a 25-year Marine, Marine infantry officer. He obviously I moved around a lot with him. Both of my parents came from military backgrounds. My mother's father was a 20-year Army officer. My father's side of the family has had numerous Marines. I have 2 cousins who are currently serving as Marines. I have an uncle currently serving as a Marine. My grandfather, his brother, so it's been in the family for quite a while.
So I understand that your grandfather and his brother were actually at Iwo Jima. Do you have any, did your grandfather ever share any stories about his service at Iwo Jima?
Very briefly. I was very young when he was still around. He never sat me down directly. I know he was wounded, shot through the leg. One thing that was passed down through my father to me when I talked about joining the Marine Corps was just the realization that at some point in combat in the Marine Corps you may receive the order to go and die, and it won't be that literally, but it'll be a situation where you know that you and your men may not be coming back, and because of that, because of the way the Marine Corps is set up, you have to follow that order. And
so, I'm sorry, please continue.
I think all he was trying to do was just make you realize, or make me realize and make my father realize before we joined, that we understood the reality of this, that it wasn't something that you could go into half-ass, that you were committed, and that, the way that the chain of command works, you have to follow those orders.
Okay. Was there a particular example of was your grandfather ordered on one of these suicide missions?
From the story that I hear, yes. I think he was in a situation. One of his higher officers ordered him to do something. He knew that most likely he and his Marines were not going to make it out of there, and he had to go. Obviously, the mission was at stake. They went. He was wounded, and I think numerous of his Marines were killed and or wounded. Okay.
So the story he gave you, it wasn't a story to prevent you from serving in the Marine Corps or the military, but kind of a lesson of what your duties would be?
Absolutely. I think it was just mainly a lesson in the fact that once you join the Marine Corps or any military service, you surrender a certain part of yourself to it, your freedom of choice to a certain extent. The Marines, we pride ourselves on self-initiative, but at the same time we pride ourselves on obedience to orders.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. I understand, since your father was an infantry officer, that there was quite a bit of travel as you were growing up. Would you tell us a little about that travel and some of the experiences or lessons you took away from all that?
We moved around pretty much all the continental United States on the main Marine Corps bases: Camp Lejeune, Quantico, Camp Pendleton. I spent 2 years in South Korea when I was in 2nd grade. Good experience, just obviously a very interesting experience for a young kid, culturally, and just being around military families, other military kids, was, I think, a little bit different experience than most people are used to.
Did this kind of shape who you are to this day? I mean, do you have a level of wanting to travel? I mean, or do you want to kind of set roots down? I mean, I
see the benefits of both. I see the benefits of being able to be from the same town and live in the same town as your grandparents and your parents. However, I also see the benefits of being able to travel, seeing as much of the world as you can, and experiencing that.
Okay.
I prefer traveling around myself.
Okay, and you think because of this traveling, because I recall from a conversation you and I had earlier, where you said that you enjoy traveling quite a bit. You don't like to be stuck in one place. I was wondering if perhaps this childhood year, as well as moving, kind of helped shape that kind of person you are now.
Oh, I think so, absolutely.
Okay. Earlier we were all discussing your weekends as a child. Most of us, on the weekends, spend our time riding bikes, playing video games. I understand that your parents apparently had a much different idea how your weekends are supposed to be spent. Could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, well, like I said, I spent some time in Quantico in Virginia, and obviously that's a center for American history. My parents pretty much every weekend would load us up in the car, myself and my one sister, and I had 2 sisters come along.
Oh, you might give us the names of your siblings?
Absolutely. My younger sister, she's 25 right now, so her name's Elena. And my younger sister just started college. Her name is Shay.
Shay. Okay. Your parents' names too, please?
Robert and Karen Humphrey.
Okay. So you were saying about Quantico and it being kind of the center of history?
Yeah, my parents would load us up in the car. We went to D.C. We'd go to the Art Museum, go to the Smithsonian, go see all the monuments and everything. Also go to places like George Washington's house, Thomas Jefferson's house. So as a kid, obviously hated it. A little bit older now, I can appreciate it. So. Okay.
I understand, and I don't want to necessarily go into it now, but you were saying that you majored in both history and English. Do you think this kind of lifestyle you lived during your childhood kind of helped shape your interest in history and English?
I think so. That, and along with, I was never very good at math, so that kind of dictated where I focused my studies. But history and English always interested me. I always enjoyed them both. So.
Okay. So that was a little more complicated than just being sent out on the weekends to see these historical sites and whatnot. Did your parents insist on? And I think you were saying that they were big into self-education. What do you mean by, or what you meant by that?
I want to say, I guess they forced us to read. My mom, my father, they would always put books in our hands. They would make us read, and they encouraged us. So we got past the point of being forced to pick up whatever interested us. For me, it was like biographies, history, stuff like that, and they just encouraged that to study on your own and not necessarily study what people tell you to do, but study what you're interested in. Okay, so.
Well, what you said, history and biographies. Is there any particular book or time period that really interests you?
Not particularly. I kind of find interest in everything, any time period. There's always interesting aspects of it. So pretty broad.
Okay. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about kind of who you were when you were